Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 796A, and today's date is October 20th, 2015, and the title of this episode is Global Trade, Corporate Revenue Collapses, the Economic Collapse Deepens. Now, before I begin, I just want to make an announcement. Tomorrow, Wednesday, I'll be uploading an interview with Mitchell Firestein. He is the author of Planet Ponzi, and yes, the recording is there this time. If you're on the X22 Report email alert system, you'll get an email if you signed up to the X22 Report Spotlight channel. YouTube should send you an email. If not, come right over to YouTube, type in X22 Report Spotlight. You will see the video, or you can come over to the x22report.com site, scroll down a little bit, look over to your right, you'll see the interview right there. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, last month, the U.S. government came out and said, we added 142,000 jobs, and everything is fine. The economy's doing well, and these were terrible job numbers, but of course it sent the stock market to all-time new highs, as bad news usually does. And then we find out that if we break down these job numbers, they're a lot worse than they were letting everyone know. And if you break them down by state, not only did more than half, or 28 states, lose jobs in September, but the total number of job losses at 120,000 was about 20% more than the cumulative job gains of 99,000. Also not making any sense is the state with the most purported job gains. This is Texas, because we know tens of thousands of people are being laid off from the oil industry. And according to the BLS, they added 26,000 jobs. The gain occurred in different industries, including retail, shipping, education, healthcare, hotel, and restaurants. Of course, all low-paying jobs. And this is what the BLS uses to plug plug the holes, and uses it as filler to create their manipulated numbers. And we see right now that the job numbers are getting harder and harder to manipulate. I mean, 28 states lost 120,000 jobs. 22 states added 99,000 jobs. I mean, what is the problem here? The problem is that these numbers that they're continually throwing at us do not match the recovery meme that the government is spewing out of the corporate media. So what they do is they continually manipulate everything to fit what they're saying. And we can see that it is not looking good whatsoever. It is getting worse day by day. Harley Davidson now saying sales are down, revenue is not coming in. They need to lay off about 250 people. Frank's International laying off 100 people. The housing market continually sliding into a complete collapse of the housing market. Building permits plummet to 7-month lows. Doesn't matter that the home builders thought that things were going to be awesome, that housing was going to do well. What's really going on in the housing market is it's slowing down dramatically. Prices are leveling off and falling. I looked around today, and let me tell you, it's accelerating. Now, is every single area going to see it at the same exact time? Of course not. Just like every single state doesn't lose jobs at the same time. But what happens is it spreads slowly. It sneaks up on you. And before you know it, everyone's scratching their head going, what just happened? We were just in a market that was booming, and now it is collapsing. And this is what we are seeing right now. And we see from existing home sales, new construction, mortgage applications, all declining. Now we have permits declining. The only thing that's going up is the sentiment from the home builders. Everything else is heading in the opposite direction. And this tells us that we are headed into a major collapse. Now, of course, we have Freddie Mac, we have Quicken Loans trying to bring as many people as they possibly can in with that 3% down. A lot of the home builders are saying, listen, we'll take 0 at this point because they're stuck. We're starting to see the tech bubble starting to pop. The second tech bubble, one which has seen nearly 200 tech unicorns rising out of the ZERP ashes in the past few years and properly attaining valuations of over $1 billion, is now bursting. I mean, let's take, for instance, Dropbox. Back in January 2014, TechCrunch wrote the following when the company was revealed to have just hit its $10 billion valuation round. Dropbox has raised a massive of $250 million funding round, valuing the company at $10 billion. Well, this is the second time they received this funding of $250 million. But what's very interesting about this is there's no revenue. Companies like Mobile Iron, Care.com, Apogee, AeroHive, Coupons.com. Stocks are falling, revenue not coming in. We're repeating what happened in 2001. So we're repeating the housing market in 2008. We're repeating the tech-com bubble in 2001. This cannot end well. And we've said this many, many times. All we see are bubbles. Bubbles in the housing. Bubble in the stock market. Bubbles in the tech arena. Bubbles in the treasury bonds. Bubbles in derivatives, in auto loans, in student loans. Everything is a bubble. It is driven by the central bank. The everyday American person is sitting on the sidelines trying to figure out where they're going to get the funds so they can pay for their next meal. In the meantime, the bankers, the U.S. government, is out there manipulating, controlling everything that is going on, and it's not real. It's fake. I mean, IBM reported a drop in revenue. This is the worst revenue since 2002. And they're seeing a 13.3% plunge in revenue, straight down. Now, what's very interesting about IBM, since the first quarter of 2012, they haven't had a quarter with positive revenue. I mean, if we go back to the first quarter of 2012, it's negative 3.3%. And it hovers around 3.3%. Sometimes it's, 3.2, sometimes it's 4.1. But in the last quarter of 2014, it dropped by 11%. The first quarter of 2015, 11%. The second quarter of 2015, 13.4%. The third quarter of 2015, 13.9%. The last time they saw this was in 2009, when everything completely fell apart. And let me just say, that was only 4 quarters back in the Great Recession where they had negative revenue. The number of quarters right now is at 14 where they're seeing negative revenue. This is a recovery? Absolutely not. This is a complete collapse of the system. The global economy is not doing well. I mean, the global economy is the stuff that we import and export around the world. And when the economies are doing well, the import and export, they go up. But the global economy is in a recession. The amount of stuff that is imported and exported around the world is going down. Remember HSBC? They reported the total global trade is down by 8.4% so far in 2015. And the global GDP expressed in US dollars is down by 3.4%. The only other time global trade has plummeted this much, again, was back during the global recession. So we're back where actually it's worse now. We've passed what we saw in the global recession. We're far beyond that already. But you know what they learned since 2008? Think about this. They learned how to keep the illusion alive and how to manipulate the markets so no one notices. They learned how to keep the market propped up. So, if we go to 2008, they had a little checklist. These are the things we need to do to keep everyone in the dark. Create a lot of money out of thin air, a lot of currency, I should say. Give it to the banks, have them prop up the market. Tell the banks, listen, keep the foreclosures on their books, don't put them in the market, drive up the prices. The Fed will step in, buy up all the toxic real estate. No one will know anything. The Fed, if we need to, they will buy the treasury bonds because we know countries are going to be selling them across the world because they realize the dollar is collapsing. Keep this going as long as possible. We're going to lower the interest rates to 0. Go negative if we have to keep the system alive. Blow up all the bubbles. The tech industry, the stocks, the treasury bond, the derivatives. Make sure anyone with a heartbeat can take out an automobile loan. Tell people to go back to school to blow up the student bubble because we need to spread debt around more and more every day. Pump up the housing market, blow up the bubble, and let's go back to the adjustable rate mortgages, 0% down. Let's pump up the tech companies, even though they're making absolutely no revenue whatsoever. This is how it is done, and this is what they've been doing. Now, September is in the early phase of the make or break holiday shipping season. Shipments usually increase from August to September. But guess what we're seeing? The index has been down by 1.5% from an already lousy September last year when shipments have fallen from prior month instead of rising. And so, in terms of the number of shipments, it was the worst September since 2010. This has been a very terrible year, with the exception of January and February. Everything else, layoffs, manufacturing, retail, housing, a complete disaster. And this is all confirmed. Look at Walmart. They're reporting that they're seeing a major economic slowdown. Walmart recently announced that its earnings would fall by as much as 12% during the next fiscal year. We're seeing that the number of job openings in the U.S. is falling and that the number of layoffs is rising. Job openings fell by 5.3% in August. Layoffs increased 2.6%. Challenger Gray is reporting that we are seeing layoffs at major firms at levels that we have not witnessed since 2009. My friends, this is not a recovery. We are already past the point of what we felt in the Great Recession. The Fed, the U.S. government, all they're doing is keeping this system alive with this great illusion. People are going to look back in time and say, wow, the market collapsed and stayed this way after 2008. All the Fed did was, and the U.S. government was lie to the people, create money, and they controlled everything. But the economy was non-existent. This is what they're going to say when they look back. Just like when they look back into the Great Depression. We see that this whole entire system right now can't go any further. Now, Russia does have plans if the United States continually imposes sanctions on them. Sergei Glaziev has a plan for Russia's immediate economic future. And the plan was proposed to the Russian Security Council. This is coming from Pepe Escobar. If the emerging trend of freezing private assets of Russian legal entities and individuals continue, Russia should consider full or partial moratorium on the servicing of loans and investment from the countries involved in the freezing. The amount of foreign currency assets of the Russian Federation located in the jurisdiction of NATO countries accounts to more than $1.2 trillion. Their freeze may be partially offset by retaliation against NATO assets in Russia, which amounts to about 1.1 trillion, including over 400 billion long term. So this threat would be neutralized if Russian monetary authorities organized a timely withdrawal of Russian short-term assets in the US and the EU. Glaziev proposes essentially is that Moscow must gain total control of its central bank. Well, we know the private Western central bank countries are not going to like this whatsoever. Now, the fact is, Russia has lost access to the Western credit and cannot roll over its debt with the creditors. So Russia will have to pay the principal and the interest as it comes due. That is $1 trillion plus interest. Russia also cannot import anything from the West without paying double for it. So arguably, the country may be now in the very position it will be if Moscow opts for a default. And Russia kind of would have nothing to lose by a default, because the damage is already done at this time. A Russian default right now on a $1 trillion plus debt to private Western parties remains a possible scenario discussed at the highest level, assuming Washington will persist in its anti-Russia demonization campaign. Needless to add, such a default, if it does occur, would collapse the entire Western financial system. It would completely crumble apart. Now, Obamacare, as we know, was developed and created, kept a secret, to bring in revenue to the government. We already hear Obama out there saying the penalties are for those people who are not taking insurance is going to be much, much higher. And he's hoping with these penalties, it drives more and more people into Obamacare. The Republicans are suing the Obama administration because they're saying that the funding did not originate with the Congress. And that's where the funding is supposed to originate from. And federal Judge Rosemary Collyer rejected Obama administration request for a quick appeal of her ruling, reinforcing for early decision and clearing the path for the suit to move forward. This is another important step, basically, in getting rid of Obamacare. The suit centers on more than $150 billion in federal health insurance subsidies provided by Obamacare to low-income enrollees to reduce their payments. The House argues the subsidies are illegal because Congress never appropriated the funds. Now, of course, the Obama administration is out there saying, oh, no, we're taking funds from here, from over there. And we can see that Obamacare was completely unconstitutional. It never should have passed. But we know the NSA, the Obama administration, used blackmail on certain judges to say, yes, this is completely constitutional. And of course, that judge then took off for 2 weeks and went on vacation, so reporters couldn't question him whatsoever. Now, Obama knows, because he's taking his order from the central banking corporations, and they realize that this economy is falling apart, they need to continually increase and blow up these bubbles. And we know they're bringing in the illegal immigrants into this country to give them working papers so they can work for the corporations. Of course, the corporations then are not subject to the penalties of Obamacare. Plus, then all of these people can then buy cars, go back to school, go into the military, and they can continually blow up more and more bubbles because what they need is more and more debt. This is how the system works. And the Obama administration right now is moving to push illegal immigrant students to enroll in high school and college, announcing a list of rights they said illegal immigrants are entitled to. Well, if you're illegal and you really don't belong to in this country, you really don't have rights because you're here illegally. So we might as well just get rid of the borders then. So right now, they are offering tips on how the students can apply, and if you notice, how they can apply for scholarships and financial aid. Financial aid in particular. Why? Because they want more student loans out there to blow up the bubble. They're running out of Americans in this country to do so. We are tapped out, and think about this for a second. All those people that are going back to school and all those people that are graduating, they can't find jobs. They can't pay back the student loans. And we see right now that the Department of Education created a 63-page handbook urging schools to create a support group for illegal immigrant students and their families, and warned against asking students their legal status. Now, I have no problem having people come into this country. I mean, this is how this country was built, on others coming into this country and building it up. Now, if these people want to come into this country, they should go through the proper channels just like everyone else. And I have no problem with this, and I'm sure nobody else has any problem with this. But as we can see, this is time consuming. This would take a long time, and a lot of these people might be rejected. So Obama, the central bankers, the corporations, they need to bypass this, because remember, Obamacare needs about 22 million people. He's trying to legalize about 8 million of the illegal immigrants. He wants more and more coming in to support everything in this country. And this is what's happening right now, because this entire system is collapsing. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.